the benefits. It's an economy unhealthily built on debt, over-indebted households, over-indebted companies, over-indebted government, inadequate investment, stagnant wages, and grotesque rewards for undeserving fat cats, for short-term performance, and often outright failure. It doesn't have to be like this. A better approach to business isn't an idealistic fantasy. Now, when I left Parliament for a brief exile, I became, and I remain, the chair of one of the country's largest social enterprises. Perhaps for the benefit of the journalists, it's unpaid. But HACT is a highly successful transport company which combines commercial discipline and social purpose. Now, many companies can and do operate in this way, but it must be the norm and not the exception. We believe that there should be ample opportunities for business to invest and innovate, to make money, why not, and create jobs. But we also believe in active government. We're not afraid to intervene when the market fails. As a minister, I was proud to launch, with the help of my Lib Dem colleagues, the financial tech sector through the British Business Bank and the Green Investment Bank and the Catapult Network, which has created a launch pad for many technological advances as part of a long-term industrial strategy. And that's our model for the future. In the face of relentlessly advancing new technologies, it's easy for people to feel powerless and threatened. So we have to understand and regulate some of the new technologies coming down the track. So that's why Joe Swinson and I are setting up a commission to look at how to turn emerging technologies from a threat into an opportunity. And if we embrace these technologies, try to imagine some of the potential. The potential for robotics in care homes, for machine learning, which can detect the first signs of a malignant tumor, or detect fraud, for blockchain, which can enable massive secure clinical trials, and quantum computing, which can outcompute computers. Now, Britain can and should be a leader in these fields, investing massively in our science and technology base. And also imagine how a government that wasn't distracted by the cost and the trouble of Brexit could use its strength and its borrowing power to invest in the environmentally sustainable infrastructure that Britain so desperately needs. Try to travel from Workington to Hull, or Swansea to Wrexham, or Dover to Penzance, let alone smaller places on the way. Now, these are truly epic journeys which show how fully connected modern Britain remains. Even the much-hyped Northern powerhouse has dwindled to little more than an unheeded cry for help. Now, we can start to put this right by breaking with the economically foolish convention of public sector accounting, which treats borrowing for productive investment in the same way as day-to-day spending. The demands of climate change alone require that bonus. If you take the tidal lagoon in South Wales, the Tory government has killed it, and we would resurrect it. And imagine putting the country to work. building the green Britain of tomorrow, with hundreds of miles of new railways and broadband cable. That is the future a liberal, social democratic, reforming government could bring. We would also want to resurrect a sense of fair play in the way that government raises money. The tax proposals you endorsed this week would be a start. We need to reverse the trend of fewer and fewer people hoarding the nation's wealth. Those on modest incomes should pay less tax. And indeed, Liberal Democrats in government delivered lower taxes for the low pay. But the wealthiest should pay more. Now, our reforms, which you passed this morning, could raise substantial sums. Now, we would not splash the money on short-term spending. It would be invested in a sovereign wealth fund, saving for the future. And that fund would be further boosted by the eventual sale of RBS shares. The public need reassurance that their taxes are put to good use. And that's why we argue for a penny in the pound on income tax, earmarked for the NHS and social care as a stepping stone to a tax specifically set aside for the NHS. And we would concentrate its funding on the mental health crisis, building on Norman Zim's work in government. And there are other services crying out for money. Schools are seriously underfunded. The police are being cut back to dangerous levels and crime is rising as a consequence. And local government has been outrageously undermined. Addressing these and other interventions requires additional tax. And when the next election comes, our manifesto will spell out progressive tax reforms and also an honest approach to tax. The principle is clear, that every citizen and company should pay their fair share and get something back for what they put in. Because nothing gets up the noses of honest taxpayers more than a government squeezing every penny it can out of small firms while rolling out the red carpet for world-class tax dodgers like Amazon, Facebook, and Google. To that end, we want a renewed offensive against individual and corporate tax dodging. In addition, we will scrap the outdated business rates, which are destroying our high streets. And reform company taxation for the digital age. Now contrast all of that with today's Labour Party. From the coterie of people around Jeremy Corbyn, who until very recently were on the Stalinist wing of the microscopic British Communist Party. And from economic policies which are based on a nostalgic view of the commanding heights of the economy, which are more relevant to the steam age than to the digital age. And in addition, unlike them, we do not believe in magic money trees and pots of gold at the end of the rainbow. What we do believe in is in the power of education. And Leyla Moran has set out the blueprint for a Britain which will prepare young people with both the academic and vocational education they need to get on in life, putting the education profession back in charge, cutting testing and volume teaching. reimagining inspection so that schools are judged not on how many boxes they've ticked, but how many children's lives they've changed. And supporting schools who teach the most disadvantaged children. The pupil premium is a Liberal Democrat invention and success, and it must be increased so that more money is targeted towards helping children from the poorest backgrounds. By contrast, the present government's financial squeeze on schools is leading teachers and assistants to be made redundant and special needs to be neglected. And all the while, scarce resources are diverted to the Tory party's ideological hobby horse of grammar schools. Selective admissions are creeping back. A generation after the 11 plus was consigned to the history books. We should be clear, selection is a byword for division. It sets school against school, pupil against pupil, and it drives down standards overall. It is totally the wrong priority. Beyond school, we have to ensure a better future for all young people. Those with A stars at A level usually leave their hometowns and don't come back. But those who struggle to get a few GCSEs stay behind. The bigger cities and towns have their own university. The rest make do with the local tech. But it's actually the local tech which should be at the forefront of the drive to equip the country for wrenching technological change and global competition. As the fourth industrial revolution takes hold, only the Liberal Democrats recognise that education is for all and for life, and not just for the very clever, the very rich, or the very fortunate. Government has a key role in making all this happen. So I will bring to the Spring Conference detailed proposals for the individual learning account to finance training and retraining through life. And contrast that approach with the Tories' version of the apprenticeship levy, which is actively discouraging training, and to the Tory axe, which is being taken to funds for lifelong learning. Liberal Democrats would offer young people the prospect of a decent education from nursery on, the lifelong learning required for the emerging job market, and one final piece of the puzzle, the prospect of a decent home. Because nothing illustrates the government's paralysis of will more than the abject failure to get to grips with the inadequate supply of housing. Tory governments under Churchill and Macmillan built 300,000 houses a year, and now they struggle to deliver half of that for a much bigger population. New social house building has almost stopped. Owner occupation is becoming a distant dream. If you remember, the Conservatives used to be the party of the homeowner, and they've now become the party of the absentee landlord and the insecure tenant. Sleeping on the streets has become appallingly commonplace. You've seen it here in Brighton. And it cannot be justified in a civilised society. Government pursues a failed model under which developers only build and landowners only sell when they can confidently expect rising prices. Big housing developers like Berkeley Homes and Barratt's and Persimmon. Now these are mainly land speculation machines with a sideline in house building. So what we insist on is that there must be an ambitious programme of council house building by councils, building free from central government control. End to the enforced sale of social housing. And we desperately need a programme of low-cost homes for rent leading to purchase for the first-time buyers and key workers. And it can be done. Successful, long-standing Liberal Democrat councils like Eastleigh have gone on and done it. There's no ideological dogma. It's just hard work and commitment. And that is what people have come to expect from their Lib Dem councils and councillors. Now, we've begun to imagine a better Britain after the Brexit nightmare. But the challenge remains how to give people a way to engage in politics which offers genuine hope that things can get better. And that's why last week I put forward proposals to remake and open up our own party, to turn the Liberal Democrats into a grey movement. Our party is still very pale and very male, and we've got to change that and keep growing, welcoming more and more people in, extending our trust to supporters by giving them a say in our leadership, opening up the field of leadership candidates and making it easier for people to get involved in community politics and stand for political office. Reaching out, we start from 100,000 members, another 200,000 supporters, and 10,000 more have come on board in just the last 10 days. And thanks to your efforts, we start the job of building this movement from a position of greater electoral strength than was apparent a year ago. At the last conference, I ended my speech by urging that we should all get out there together and win. And I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for answering that call. Because we had 75 net gains in the local elections in May. We've got 4 new councils in Liberal Democrat control, including mine. We had our best results in 15 years. Shortly afterwards, following a massive effort from Liberal Democrat activists, we had a 19% swing to Lucy Salek at the Luncombe East by-election. It was actually our best result against Labour for 14 years. There can be no doubt the Liberal Democrats are growing and winning again, and this is just the beginning. The next step is to win and win big in the local elections next year. And Willie Rennie and Jane Dodds and Caroline Pidgeon are readying us for the big devolved elections in 2020 as well. But meanwhile, as we grow, the tectonic plates of British politics are shifting beneath us. The 2 big parties have changed from broad churches into intolerant cults. And those who question the faith are not welcome. The Labour leadership is dominated by people who believe in doctrines that are very far removed from the sensible social democratic tradition that prevailed from the days of Clement Attlee to Gordon Brown. And they, in turn, are the mirror image of the Tory zealots who have more in common with UKIP than their party's one nation traditions.